Missouri, a 69 Nova. Here comes the man, Bill, 200-mile-per-hour Coleman out of Wentzville, Missouri. Now the question is, will he soon be known as Bill 5-second Coleman? Ladies and gentlemen, no man has ever gone quicker than 6.00. Matter of fact, only Coleman has gone that quick in a full-body door slammer car. Bill Coleman was the first man to go 200 in a door car. Now, will he be the first man to go in the fives? No, Bill Coleman, 6:06, 210 miles per hour. Mickey Shields is delighted, but Big Daddy is with the loser, Bill Hill.
Well, Bill, you just made a run against Bill Coleman, who ran 6:06. What does it feel like to have the best seat in the house?
It's a pretty good feeling, actually. Bill Coleman's a real good friend of mine, and I always enjoy watching Bill run, and to see him run a run like that is pretty neat to see from that vantage point.
Yeah, you were just a few feet away.
Yeah, it was quite a few feet, but yeah, I got to see a pretty good shot of it. He was all over the place, but he stayed in it and drove it all the way through.
Let's take another look at that run. He ran a 6:06. That is a new record. The 6 flat backs it up, but the question is, can he run a 5?
Well, it ran real good, Bill. I just have one question. Is it still in one piece?
I don't know. It would not come down from the high RPM. It just kept screaming down there. I don't know. You know, butterflies don't stick open because of ice. They just won't come off idle. I don't know. The crew said it was clean. There was no smoke, but it didn't shut down. I killed the mag, and it finally came down. Maybe the clutch was turning it.
Anyway, the Barons are going to tell the story, right?
Well, something's going to tell me real quick, and I'll pull the plugs out of it.
Here comes Jeff Brozovich out of Tracy, Iowa, the 1938 Special Coupe, owned by Dave Graytech, that he drove to the championship last year. Mel Easy, insurance agent, you just met him, out of Hudson, Florida, with the 63 Chevrolet split window, has had his share of problems this year. Engine gremlins, we call them. They're little gremlins that way you just can't find them. Motor keeps blowing up. He's been on fire. He's done everything. Looks like he may have it together now. Not a sensational run, 6:59 for Mel, but at least it stayed together in one piece. The Braz is your winner, of course, with a 6:47. That means in the semifinal round, the Braz will have to face Nicholson. So it looks like the Braz, backing up right there with the 38 Chevrolet out of Tracy, Iowa, will get the single or bye run. Now, the Braz ran a 6:47, a little off the pace for him in the first round. Meanwhile, they're going to hook up the tow car and tow Dan Nicholson off the end of the track. That could be a little bit of a problem for Brozovich as he may heat up. Phil Guston, the race director for Super Chevy shows, not real happy with the way that thing has turned out, but the Braz will give it his best. No, tires actually got cold. He lost all of the traction right there. Waited too long while they towed Nicholson off. He'll settle for a 9:07, 114, which will. Well, here comes Bill Coleman. He'll get another attempt at breaking that 5-second barrier. Dave Graytech not concerned with the 5-second barrier. His mind is on one thing, a great premiere with this new 1963 Corvette. Only about the 4th run on that car coming up right now. Jeff Brozovich, the crew chief for Dave Graytech, observing that run. Let's go to top in with Big Daddy.
610, 229, Bill. Another one bites the dust.
Well, we got to get one more to bite the dust. I think if I figured right, if I can beat this man in this final, I can lock this season. That's very important to me after last season. But secondly, as I said before, Super Chevy's where the fast door slammers are. If anybody else from any organization wants to come on over, and we don't care what rules you bring with you. You run it, we'll bring it, we'll put the money on the line. Let's see who's the quickest car in the world.
Whoa, there's a challenge for everybody. So Jeff's guys can cut a light there. Professor Roy, Bill Coleman, Wentzville, Missouri, the 69 Summer Racing Equipment Corvette against Jeff Brozovich, Tracy, Iowa, driving the 38 Special. Whoa, the Braz! Yeah, round and round she goes, and where she lands, nobody knows. Boy, did he have problems. Coleman, 630, 218, kind of an uneventful ending. Brozovich stole the show there.
Like I said, I hope he's okay. He's one of the toughest guys you'll ever want to race. If I ever need somebody to run my car, if I'm down and out, it's going to be Brozovich in that seat. He's the best driver I know out there.
That's your pick, huh?
Well, the guy's pretty damn good, and I can appreciate him. I want to say, unless my calculations are wrong, I think this wrapped up the championship, and my crew, Vicky and Gabe and Brian at home, have worked their butts off all year. I wanted to get this thing wrapped up earlier than this, and it didn't happen. But boy, we're going out on a pretty strong note. Thanks to all the support from Summit for all these years. It's been a great relationship. We're going to be a free agent shortly, looking for help. We need help to race these cars. And anybody wants to get on the quickest car in the world with the most television anybody can get in drag racing, this is the place to do it.
Well, you got that part right, Bill Coolman. Meanwhile, the guy stealing the show, Jeff Brozovich, look at that, slid around, hit the wall, got out, took a bow.
Welcome, everybody, to a very special edition of Inside Drag Racing, coming to you from Virginia Motorsports Park and the Super Chevy Show here at Dinwiddie, Virginia. You know, this particular show pretty much guarantees that we're going to pay attention to history, and history is something that we rarely come across. As a matter of fact, since the beginning of televised drag racing, we've had the opportunity to see some very, very important moments in drag racing history. But certainly, the vast majority of publicity over the last decade or so has centered around full-bodied passenger cars. And the vast majority of hardcore drag racing fans know well the history that has surrounded these machines since the mid-1950s, when Arnie the Farmer Beswick became the first to break into the 13-second zone, if you can believe that. Throughout each and every one of the incremental second barriers, we've seen amazing publicity surrounding the driver that's managed to accomplish the feat. All the way down to the mid-1970s when Dino Don Nicholson put a match race Ford Mustang II into the 7-second zone. And then, of course, in the summer of 1988, when first Tommy Howes with a supercharged Datsun 240Z, and later the late Gordy Meal and Scott Shafroth's Pontiac Trans Am eclipsed the 6-second mark. But now, ladies and gentlemen, Inside Drag Racing is proud to be on hand here at Virginia Motorsports Park for the attempted smashing of the 6-second barrier. That means the first ever 5-second elapsed time. Now, if you haven't paid attention to drag racing history here in the last few weeks, it's been intense. You might remember in Chicago, Joliet, Illinois to be exact, and Route 66 Raceway, when Bill Coolman recorded the quickest elapsed time of the 2000 season in his Nitro Coupe. The Summit Racing Equipment 68 Corvette ran 6.16 seconds at that event to put down a tremendously quick mark for the rest of the world to shoot at. But then at Columbus, Ohio, Coolman dropped a bomb. 6.001 seconds at 234 miles per hour to set a mark that a lot of people didn't think possible for the next 2 seasons. Well, here at Dinwiddie, we've got the atmospheric conditions and we've got the racetrack for this man to shoot for a 5-second elapsed time on the very first qualifying round. Now, this is something we don't normally devote this much attention to, but Bill, you know better than anybody, this is history.
Yeah, this is history, and I'd love to be the guy that could do it. I have to take advantage of all the total situation. They say the track is good. We'll find that out in a few short minutes here. I know the air is good, and I know the car is good.
Let's go back to Columbus. After a 6.16, you were on top of the world. What in the world stepped that car up 1.5 tenths?
Well, you mean Chicago, 6.16 Chicago. Columbus, we went into 64-degree ambient air temperatures. We didn't have that in Chicago. We were up in probably the 80+ zone. 64 degrees, a blower just loves that. You know, you hear people using intercoolers on superchargers and turbochargers, but you didn't need an intercooler. Well, we've got a little less than 64 degrees as we speak today.
Yeah, I mean, it's even better a situation. Now, how much time have you spent preparing this week for this run?
Well, mentally, I've spent every second available when I wasn't basically zonked out sleeping, and I only did that after total exhaustion. I've wore my brain out on it, but there's a part of it that's just up to the other elements. I have to drive a good race. My tuning call has to be on. We've got a fresh Cabelco on top of that thing. When they're fresh, they really pump out some air. I had to go the other route. I've detuned a little bit. Just as important as running down the track and running 6 is getting down the track. You know, my 6.06 run had better short times than my 6 flat run. So I took the 6.06 tune-up, softened it up, and hopefully I can put together a home run in this deal.
All right, let's look at the worst-case scenario and say that, well, one scenario would be a shaking the tires or something like that on the first run. Another scenario would be that the car goes out and says, oh, maybe a 6.12 is all I can give you on this run. What do you do then for the second pass?
Driving blown cars, most people don't realize this, but it's a tune by the run deal anyway. We have to tune by the run. One thing about it, the first run will give me a much better shot at the second run because I will have more information. Secondly, a Super Chevy, they don't play favorites. We draw out of a hat for what lane we're going to qualify in and where we go, and I've drawn the left lane for the first round. traditionally I've run my best numbers here in the right lane. But since they've resurfaced this place, that, you know, who knows? I'll find out. A lot of people say, what's the track look like? I always say, I don't look like it. I have to run on. I have to run both lanes. What good's looking at going to do besides give me something else to think about?
Well, as far as something else to think about, folks, remember this. At just about every Super Chevy show this year, Bill Coleman has managed to drop the current track record by between 1 and actually 2/10 of a second in some instances. 1 year ago here at Dinwiddie, Coleman clocked this 6.17 second run. Take 2/10 off that, and we might have history.
Thank you very much, Brett, Inside Drag Racing.
We come back. Those pipes will be spewing nitro fumes and thumping away to the tune of almost 3,000 horsepower as we get ready for potential history, folks. Will Bill Coleman become the first man with a full-body passenger car to break into the 5-second barrier? Don't even think about changing the channel. We'll be back in just a moment with the results of qualifying round 1. Back to this edition of Inside Drag Racing, coming to you from Virginia Motorsports Park in Dinwiddie, Virginia, for the Super Chevy Show Nitro Coupe qualifying session that could produce the first ever 5-second elapsed time by a full-bodied passenger car. Bill Coleman in the Summit Racing Equipment Corvette, intent on making this run. The man who 13.5 years ago was the first ever over 200 miles per hour, now wants a 5-second run on his resume more than anything else. But only a few moments ago, Coleman, scheduled in the 3rd qualifying pair, had to watch this run by Gary Irving's supercharged Nitro Burning 52 Chevrolet. An incredible top-end fire after career best 6:23. And Coleman definitely became concerned, but he knows the conditions are perfect. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. Will we see the first 5-second run on the very first pass? It's a beautiful run. Coleman stays in it and will not get the 5 on the very first effort. You can see the 6.19 second run at 227 miles per hour is not even a track record, surprisingly. But remember, Coleman told us if he got a baseline run, then he could start making changes. What did you learn? What can be done for the second session?
Well, I learned that, well, I'll know more when I look at the engine. The engine's going to tell me what it can handle. You know, we'll see whether we were on the ragged edge of the engine and it wasn't putting it to the track, or whether we can put a lot more to the engine.
We'll be there.
Okay.
Well, with the look of dejection evident on Bill's face, he'll head back to the pits to get ready for the next shot. Meanwhile, we have one member on our staff who's been in this situation countless times, but we're lucky enough to have him each and every week with his pick. Here's Big Daddy Dungarlitz. Well, Bill Coleman has one more chance in his shot at the 5-second zone here in qualifying at Dinwiddie, and I promise you'll know the outcome before the end of this show. But in the meantime, remember when Nitro funny cars were just barely nipping the 5-second zone? If you do, you've been in this sport 25 years. But there's a lot of other fans out there who remember it. As a matter of fact, those fans are trying to relive it. Stay with us when we come back. Nostalgia funny cars. Nitro Coupe's firing up, and that means it's time for Bill Coleman's second qualifying run. What will happen? Let's go find out. A great launch, but tire smoke, and Coleman is forced to get in and out of the throttle, but he's back on the loud pedal to a 6:14, 235.80 miles per hour, the fastest speed ever recorded by a full-bodied passenger car. Even shaking and you getting completely out of the throttle over 186 miles an hour in the 8th mile, and it still runs the fastest speed of all time for a passenger car.
Well, that shows that this combination of cool air and low sea level, the power was there. ET is made up by track grip, and mile an hour is made up by pure blind horsepower.
Yeah,
we had the horsepower to do it. We just got to find the combination and stay hooked up when the power's starting to come on. You know, we're sitting here at, 2,600 pounds, and we're outpowering our own weight to get the tires to stay hooked. So I'm going to have to kill some power there, because it showed me it's not going to let me down here.
Absolutely not. Well, history will record that the first 5-second door slammer run was not recorded here at Dinwiddie in the second qualifying session of the Super Chevy Show, but the world's fastest door slammer speed was. Here's Butch with what I hope is an equally good quarter-mile quiz. Park, midsummer of the year 2000 Super Chevy Show.